It's an amazing day when I get to be out here and talk about two football games in spring. Yes, I know it's just spring games, it's just a spring scrimmage, but the fact that we have college football, FBS college football, on a Saturday in the spring is always a good sign, and I had an amazing time watching this Georgia game and watching the Alabama game, which I had going on at the same time, so I had to take notes on both of those. I have a whole sheet here full of notes, so it was hard to get all the notes down and watch both games at the same time, but I want to be a broadcaster, I want to be a sports analyst, and that's what you got to do. I'm putting myself through the work now, and I had a blast just watching football today. So welcome to Touchdowns to Home Runs. If you haven't already been to this channel before, do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Hit the subscribe button down below because you will love some of the content on this channel. We have already done full 14 teams SEC early predictions, including the Georgia Bulldogs. So if you're a Bulldogs fan, I will put a little notification up there that you can click and that you could go watch that video because I guarantee you it's an amazing video. We go into breaking down their schedule, going through their losses, their wins, their gains from this season, and then going through wins, toss-ups, and losses. It's a great video. Go check that out if you're a Bulldogs fan. And if you're happy that football is back and you think that the Georgia Bulldogs will have a good season this year, do me a favor, hit the like button down below. That would be greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second. Watching both games was great, but this Georgia game, as you can see straight off the bat, Gamecocks here, Gamecocks back there. As a South Carolina Gamecocks fan, I'm not supposed to like this Georgia Bulldogs team, but I'm curious to see what's going on in Georgia. Georgia's a great football program. They're a historic program, and I picked them to make the playoff this year. If you haven't watched my early playoff prediction video, you should definitely check that out as well because I just gave a hint away. I am picking the Georgia Bulldogs to make the college football playoff this year. So I'm interested to see what Georgia was going to do in the spring game. I was interested mostly in to see what JT Daniels was going to do. I was interested to see how this defense was going to play. And if you're a Georgia fan, even though how many points were put up, the game's still going on right now. I got kicked out of ESPN Plus. Like, my internet wasn't working. The score currently is 28-16, so lots of points scored, but there's still lots to look forward to on this defense, which we'll get into a bit later. And I just wanted to see how Todd Monken's offense was going to do. I wanted to see how Kirby Smart's team as a whole was going to do, because this is one of the better teams in college football going into the season. And there was lots to look forward to. I think the beginning of the game, starting off with the offense at the beginning of the game, especially with JT Daniels, I did not like what I saw at all in the beginning of the game. It was all short passes. Now, you might say it's just a spring game. Come on, is short passes, they're just getting the offense warmed up and everything, just let it be. But if you watched Alabama's game, I watched two different contrasting games in terms of watching the Georgia game and watching the Alabama game. The Georgia game, the defenses was a lot better in this Georgia game. The defensive line got after the quarterback a ton, which we'll get into the defense a bit later. The secondary was very good for Georgia. But you look at the Alabama game. Alabama was throwing the ball deep a lot. They were going for a lot of 15-plus yard plays, where in the first half of this game for UGA, there was just nothing. It was just 5-yard check down after 5-yard check down after wide receiver screen after all this stuff. And I was just like, I just want to see JT Daniels let the ball fly for once. And we started to see that as the game went on. I saw one of his best passes I've ever seen from JT Daniels very late in the second half, or the first half, going to, who was it? I think it was Kearis Jackson in the end zone there. Beautiful touchdown. That was an amazing throw, and that's what I wanted to see. I didn't know who to blame for that, all the short stuff, because it wasn't working. The defensive line was getting after JT Daniels. They had an amazing game today, and the defense was just able to keep the offense in front of them, which was part of the reason why there was just barely any offense in the first half of this game. First half as well, another part that I was very excited to see for this offense. Brock Vandagriff, 5-star quarterback coming in this season for Georgia. I want to see how he was going to do. Yes, I don't think he's going to play all that much this year, but he probably is the future of the quarterback position for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, it's either him or Gunnar Stockton, depending on who you guys think is going to be your quarterback. Of course, he stole Gunnar Stockton from us, which was unfortunate, but we don't need to talk about that. I liked what I saw from Brock Vandagriff. His first 3 snaps obviously had a terrible fumble, just couldn't handle a snap, and that got pulled over. But what I saw from Brock Vandagriff, he's a big dude. He's a guy that I'd love to have at the quarterback position. I think that he could be the future of that quarterback group for the Georgia Bulldogs. So watching him play was very, very reassuring for Georgia. The offensive line for Georgia and the rushing game in total, They have a really good rushing game. I think we all know that Georgia's rushing game is one of the best in college football, where you got James Cook, you got Zamir White, you got Kendall Milton. You got a ton of guys in this rushing game that just did very well today. And that's going to be what leads Georgia to success this season on the offensive side of the ball, especially. And part of the reason why I'm so stuck up about all this short game stuff and the fact that the offense wasn't moving early, especially when it's just a spring game, the first game of the season, you play Clemson. Obviously, I'm going to be cheering for Georgia in that game. I hate Clemson. I want Georgia to win that game more than anything else in the world. You cannot start out a game playing short ball like that. And guess what? You could say, well, Georgia, they were going up against Georgia's defense. Georgia's defensive line doesn't let any plays develop anyways. Clemson's defensive line is really, really good, at the same level, maybe even better than what Georgia's is at. So you're going to be faced up, first game of the season, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense that you're going to see all season if you're the Georgia Bulldogs. And that is kind of a must-win game, because if you don't win that game against Clemson, you're going to have to sweep the rest of your schedule. You're going to have to go on, win the SEC East, win the SEC championship to find yourself in a playoff spot. So that's a game that Georgia's going to have to start out of the gates fast. If they can find their tempo that they found in the second half of this game, if they could start finding their receivers downfield and open and allow JT Daniels, there was a lot of passing plays with the running back. I love that. Again, that's why I said this rushing game for Georgia is going to be the key for this offense, because not only rushing the ball, but receiving for those running backs like James Cook. He had a huge wheel route, nice pass from JT Daniels that set them up really nice in a drive there. Tons of plays with this running back core is going to make the success for this Georgia Bulldogs offense. But again, getting the offense established early and getting big plays early, you cannot wait that long to the second half against a good team like Clemson that you play first game of the season, which is going to be probably, I think, the number one most impactful game of the season in terms of playoff implications. It's going to be insane for how Georgia plays that game against Clemson, because you got to get out of the gates fast, because if you get behind against Clemson, it's going to be really hard to get back. And that's not something I want to say because I hate Clemson. I hate talking good about them, but I really want Georgia to win this game. And I need them to get out of the gates fast against Clemson. So that's kind of the offense. That's where I'm kind of stuck up about them just playing the short ball at the beginning. Yes, it's a spring game, and I'm being just a stickler, and I'm being kind of high-strung right now. But when it comes down to it, against a big team like Clemson, if you play that same style at the beginning of the game, it's going to be really tough to win that ball game. The defensive line, I think, for Georgia played amazing in this game. You look at some of the better players, like I took up the sacks, look at the sacks totals for, you had Chumley getting 2, Nolan Smith having 1, Travon Walker having 1, Luke having 1, and then you had Collins having 1. This defensive line, I said it again, this is one of the better defensive lines in all of college football, in my opinion. I think Georgia's defense as a whole, even though, again, I said it, there was lots of points scored in this game, but they are definitely one of the more consistent defenses in all of college football. And I think that's why I'm so high on Georgia this season, is because they have the defense that so many teams in college football just do not have. They just don't have the consistency that Georgia has. And over the years, Georgia has been able to have a really, really good defense. And I don't think that Georgia's losing that many guys. I think they lose Monty Rice, and I think they lose LeCount. But other than that, you still have a really, really good core of a defense over there in Georgia. And I think that what Georgia's going to be able to do on the defensive side of the ball and the turnovers that they're going to be able to force for Georgia this season is going to be the reason why Georgia is able to win some good games against good teams. Like, let's say, Florida. I know Florida is a different team this year, but you're still going to have to beat Florida to win the East. Like, it's still going to have to happen. Auburn, again, they got a new coach coming in, but you're still going to have to play good against them. Clemson, obviously, you're going to have to play good against their offense with their reestablishing with DJ Uiagalelei, and then they got a new running back coming in because Travis Etienne is obviously gone, but they're going to have a new running back coming in as running back number 1 for Clemson. Your defense is going to have to step up, and that's where my confidence comes in this Georgia Bulldogs team. Other than that, in this spring game, it's just good to see some guys showing up. Like Washington, I think, had a really good game receiving for Georgia. Obviously, you have George Pickens out this season, or for most of the season of what I'm reading, due to his injury, which is unfortunate. But I think this receiving core as a whole for Georgia still has a tons of guys like Kyrus Jackson. You look at Washington, there was tons of guys who were making big plays in the spring game. So all in all, a really good spring game for Georgia. Again, if Georgia's able to play like they were, especially their offense in the second half of this game, they're going to be a really successful team this year. And make that playoff spot that I predicted them to. Again, I'm a Gamecocks fan. I don't like Georgia, but I see the talent on this team. I see where this team can get, and they have the capability of getting there. It's just, I think, all based on how their offense plays. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. Like down below, subscribe, comment anything about the Georgia Bulldogs down below. Thank you for watching, and definitely come back next time.